morning, sir. Are you Mr. Santiago?
Good morning. Yes.
All right, sir, can you tell me your full name and your date of birth?
Rafael Omar Sepúlveda Santiago. Noviembre
Rafael.
18, 92.
Rafael Omar Sepúlveda Santiago, November 18, 1992.
Okay. Mr. Santiago, do you want the public defender to represent you this morning?
Sí.
Yes.
All right, I'll appoint the public defender to represent you. Sir, you've been charged with robbery with a firearm, battery, and resisting an officer without violence. I've reviewed the arrest affidavit. I do find probable cause. On count 1, I'm setting that at no bond. Count 2, 1,500. Count 3, 500. You cannot return to the scene of the location. You cannot have any contact with the victims in this case. You may not possess any weapons or firearms. Thank you, sir. Next case, Velez Rosado. Good morning, sir. Can you tell me your full name and your date of birth, please?
José Raúl Vélez Rosado, 26 de julio del 84.
José Raúl Vélez Rosado, July 26, 1984.
All right, sir. Do you want the public defender to represent you this morning?
Sí.
Yes.
I'll appoint the public defender. Sir, you are here on a warrant where a judge found probable cause. You were charged with burglary of an occupied structure and grand theft. Count 1, I'm leaving bond as is, 5,000. Count 2, 150. You are not to return to the location, the scene of the offense. Thank you. Next case, Hernandez Perez.
Your Honor, this is the gentleman that's hard of hearing, and I did locate the plea form.
Okay. Sorry, yes.
No, I'm going to communicate him verbally.
Okay.
Me vas a mirar, ¿ok? Bájate la máscara para poderte ver. Okay.
All right, can you tell me your full name and your date of birth?
Me puedes...
Señor,
Go ahead with the translation.
señor, por favor, dígame su nombre completo.
Dígame su nombre.
Otilio Hernández.
Otilio Hernández.
Fecha de nacimiento.
15 de julio de 1985.
July 15, 1985.
Okay, sir, you were charged with trespassing and failure to leave the property.
Usted
Señor, I apologize, Your Honor. Do you want me to interpret what you're saying, or do you want me to
Yes.
just interpret
Mrs.
what
Izquierdo,
he's-
will you just put yourself on mute until, because I think she's picking up.
Yes, I can hear, so that's why I am confused.
Okay, go ahead with the translation.
And I apologize, Your Honor. Could you please repeat that second charge?
Just one charge, trespass, failure to leave the property upon own orders.
Señora, usted se le acusa de entrada ilícita y de no abandonar la propiedad cuando le fue solicitado.
lo acusaron de traspaso por entrar a un lugar donde no podía estar presente. Okay?
Do you want the public defender to represent you this morning?
Señor, ¿usted desea que se le designe el abogado de oficio para que le represente?
¿Usted quiere que el abogado de oficio lo represente?
Sí.
I'll appoint the public
Yes.
defender to represent you.
Muy bien, entonces se designa el abogado de oficio para que le represente.
Yes, Mrs. Izquierdo.
I do have an executed plea form. May I approach?
Yes. What's the agreement?
Tengo aquí, su señoría, el convenio declaratorio ya completado. ¿Me permite abordar? Sí. ¿Cuál es la resolución acordada?
Withhold of adjudication. court
La
costs,
resolución acordada, el dictamen de culpabilidad en suspensión, el pago de las costas judiciales,
credit time served,
que se le acredite el tiempo cumplido
no return.
y que se le prohíba regresar a la escena del ilícito.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Hernandez, is this an M1 or an M2?
I believe this is an M2.
Okay, maximum 60 days? All right, Mr. Hernandez, you are charged with trespass. That's a second-degree misdemeanor, punishable up to 60 days in jail. You want to take the plea this morning?
Muy bien, señor Hernández, a usted se le acusa de entrada ilícita. Esto es una falta de segundo grado cuya pena máxima acarrea hasta 60 días de cárcel. ¿Usted desea aceptar el convenio declaratorio esta mañana?
Okay. Usted lo arrestaron por un trespass de segundo grado. La máxima penalidad son 60 días en cárcel, pero eso no es lo que usted va a hacer hoy, ¿ok? Es tiempo cumplido.
Sí.
Yes.
Do you understand you have the right to a trial? You have the right to discovery. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right for your lawyer to look at your case, and you're waiving or giving up those rights in exchange for your plea?
Señor, ¿entiende usted que usted tiene derecho a que se celebre un juicio, a constar con asistencia letrada y que estaría renunciando a todas estas garantías procesales el día de hoy para que podamos aceptar el convenio declaratorio?
¿Usted entiende que va a renunciar a un derecho a juicio, a examinar personas en contra suya, presentar evidencia y a tener un abogado que repase el caso con usted? Y esto es lo que usted quiere hacer hoy. Sí.
Está bien.
Okay, fine.
All right, I find that you are alert and intelligent. I'll accept your plea. I'll impose a withhold plus court costs. You cannot go back to that location, and I'll give you credit for 1 day time served.
Muy bien, señor, acepto su declaración, determino que usted está alerta, se impone dictamen de culpabilidad en suspensión, se le ordena el pago de las costas judiciales, se le prohíbe regresar a la escena del ilícito y se le acredita el tiempo cumplido de un día.
Your case is done. Thank you, sir.
Hemos terminado con su caso, señor. Muchas gracias.
Oh, you have a year to pay the court costs.
Señor, tiene un año para pagar los costos de corte.
Tengo
Un año.
un año.
Un año. Ujú.
¿Ven acá?
Sí.
Está bien.
Okay.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Do we still need that's it for Spanish? Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Your Honor. No witnesses need the Spanish interpreter.
Could you make an announcement?
Alguna de las personas que se encuentran aquí esta mañana para declarar necesitan los servicios del intérprete al español.
Okay, I don't see anyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, Rodrigo Tercero de Jesus? Is that you, sir? Okay. Oh, he needs Portuguese? Oh, okay.
Your Honor, I did speak to him in Spanish. He advised that if Portuguese is not available, he understands Spanish.
I think we got one.
This is Portuguese.
Okay, good morning. Can you state
Portuguese
your full,
interpreters on the line.
all right, can you state your full name and have you been sworn in yet?
This is the Portuguese interpreter. Name is Cleo, C-L-E-O, and yes, I've been sworn in this morning already.
Okay, thank you. Could you, sir, Mr. Jesus, could you tell me your full name and your date of birth?
Senhor de Jesus, pode falar seu nome completo, sua data de nascimento?
Rodrigo Dias Terceiro de Souza, 22/11/1976.
November 22nd, 1976.
Thank you. Do you want the public defender to represent you this morning?
O senhor quer que o defensor público defenda o senhor hoje, o represente hoje?
Eu preciso de defensor?
Do I need a defender?
Do you want a lawyer, Mrs. Quiero, to represent you this morning in court?
O senhor quer que o advogado, seu Esqueiro, represente o senhor hoje nesse tribunal?
Ah, sim, ok.
Yes, okay.
Okay. Mr. Diaz, you've been charged with no valid driver's license. I've reviewed the arrest affidavit. I find probable cause. I'm setting bond in the amount of 500.
Então, o senhor foi acusado de não ter uma carteira de motorista válida. Eu revi a acusação, os documentos, e eu coloquei uma fiança no valor de $500.
Sim.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Obrigada.
Okay.
Obrigada.
And that's
Welcome.
it. You can disconnect. Thank you.
Só isso. You're welcome. This is John Service.
Good morning, sir. Can you tell me your full name and your date of birth?
Daryl
you.
Antonio
Goodbye.
Highsmith, 12/28/1977.
All right, Mr. Highsmith, I'll appoint the public defender to represent you this morning. You've got two cases. First, you were charged with domestic violence battery. Second, there's another charge for domestic violence battery. I've reviewed both cases. I do find probable cause. On the first case, I'll set bond on count one in the amount of $1,500. On the second case, I'm setting bond in the amount of $1,500. You cannot go back to that location if you do bond out. Also, you cannot possess any weapons or firearms. And also, you cannot have any contact with the victims in this case. No contact means no face-to-face contact or indirect contact, meaning through someone that knows you and the victims or through social media, text messages, and no alcohol. Thank you, sir. All right, next case, Williamson.
Behavior?
Okay. I'll appoint the public defender to represent Mr. Williamson. He filled out the form. All right, he has an open misdemeanor trespass after warning. He's got the new charge of criminal mischief. I've reviewed the arrest affidavit on the criminal mischief. I find probable cause. I'll set bond on that in the amount of $1,000 with a stay-away order. I'll take no action on the misdemeanor trespass. All right, thank you. Next case is Ms. Henry. All right, can you tell me your full name and your date of birth?
Yes, ma'am. Yasmin Walisa Henry, 07/23/1998.
Okay. Ms. Henry, I'm going to appoint the public defender to represent you this morning. Ma'am, you've been charged with violating an injunction, repeat violence injunction. I've reviewed the arrest affidavit. I find probable cause. I'm setting bond in the amount of $1,000. If you bond out, you cannot return to that location. You cannot possess any weapons or firearms, and you're still to have no contact with the victim in this case. No contact is no face-to-face contact or indirect contact, okay? Thank you, ma'am. Next case, Prosper? Are you Mr. Prosper? Is that you, sir? All right. Mr. Prosper, can you tell me your full name and your date of birth, please?
Full name is Junior Prosper, Junior Prosper.
What's your birthday?
02/12/1993.
All right. Mr. Prosper, I'm going to appoint the public defender to represent you this morning. You've been charged with trespass. I reviewed the arrest affidavit. I find probable cause. I'm setting bond in the amount of $250. Do not go back to Camden Apartments. Okay? Thank you, sir.
Your Honor,
Yes?
Mr. Prosper advised that he wanted to resolve this morning. However, at this time, defense has mental health concerns, so I would ask for another public defender to ask him the qualifying questions.
Mr. Prosper, you're going to have to wait. They're not going to close it out today. Thank you. Ms.
An attorney-
Alfaro, Erica Alfaro.
I wrote it down for you.
Good morning, ma'am. Can you tell me your full name and your date of birth?
Erica Rosary Alfaro, May 22nd, 1995.
Okay. Ms. Alfaro, do you want the public defender to represent you this morning?
Yes.
Okay, I'll appoint the PD. Ma'am, you've been charged with possession of methamphetamine. I reviewed the arrest affidavit. I find probable cause. I'm gonna set bond, I'm gonna lower the bond, set it at $500, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Callahan? All right. Good morning, sir. Can you tell me your full name and your date of birth, please?
Marshall Lee Callahan, 12175.
All right. Do you want the public defender to represent you this morning?
Yes, ma'am, but I want to know will I be able to ask a question?
Hold on one second, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
So the reason you're here is because there's an out-of-county warrant for your arrest, and that judge set bond at 0. All right? So because of that, I'm not gonna give you a bond. You're gonna have to get that resolved at a later time. All right, Mr. Callahan? Thank you, sir.
I still have a question.
Okay, what's the question?
Let's say I have the warrant, right?
Mhm. Okay, what about the warrant, sir?
What day was it? Could you tell me what day this warrant was supposed to be pressed out? Because see,
So here's the situation. So here, hey, excuse me. Everything's being recorded. I don't want you to say something that can be used against you. A lawyer at a later time will explain, all right?
I'm very knowledgeable of what I'm saying, so
Okay.
I'm not worried about saying anything it's not.
Okay, but sir, this is not the time for you to ask questions and for us to have a discussion about your matter. I've concluded your hearing. You are excused. Thank you. Next case. I've got Hunter, but that was Osceola, right? Oh, okay. There's another Hunter? Oh, it was Bruce Wayne, that's why. All right. Okay, so on Bruce Wayne Hunter, I'm gonna appoint the public defender. He filled out a form for that. So he's been charged with ag assault, domestic violence. You're not Mr. Hunter? No, okay. So on Mr. Hunter, I'm setting bond on count 1, 1,500, count 2, 1,500, count 3, 500. No return, no contact with the victim, and no weapons or firearms. All right, Mr. Dennis Molina, how do you say your last name?
Grosby.
Grosby. All right, sir, tell me your full name and your date of birth.
Dennis Molina Grosby Jr., 09/27/2001.
All right, I'll appoint the public defender to represent you this morning. Good morning, ma'am. Can you
Good
raise
morning.
your right hand, please? You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
What's your name?
Yesenia Castro Cardona.
Okay, and you're the mother?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Mr. Grosby, you've been charged with domestic violence battery. I've reviewed the arrest affidavit. I find probable cause. Ma'am, what is it that you'd like to tell me?
I have both of my children here.
Yeah, I saw.
I've never had any issues with any of them. I think
So, hold on. So let's not get into what happened. All I want to know is, do you want to have contact with them? Do you all live together?
we all live together. Yes,
Okay,
they both live with
Do
me.
you want them to come back?
Yeah, of
Are
course.
you afraid for your safety?
No, ma'am.
You understand that if they do come back and things get heated again, you can call the police. You understand?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Mr. Grosby, based on what your mother has said, I'm going to, and also, I think you qualify for pretrial release as well. So what I'm going to do is release you to pretrial. You don't have to post a bond. You can go back to the home, but you cannot have any hostile contact. No hostile contact, meaning if it gets escalated between you or anyone else, it's on you to walk away. You understand?
Yes, ma'am.
No weapons, no firearms. And then, yeah. All right.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Next case, Talia?
She's mine too. Okay.
Good morning. Can you tell me your full name and your date of birth?
Talia Jasenia Grosby, December 9, 2003.
All right. Ms. Grosby, I'm gonna appoint the public defender to represent you. I've reviewed the arrest affidavit. I find probable cause. Ma'am, Ms. Yesenia, is it the same situation with your daughter?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, Ms. Talia, what I'm gonna do, you were charged with domestic violence battery. I find probable cause. I'm gonna release you to pretrial release. You can go back to the home, but there's no hostile contact. Meaning, if it gets hostile or heated between you and anyone else, it's on you to walk away. You understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. No weapons or firearms.
Your Honor,
Yes?
she is listed as the victim. Can we just make sure she's okay with contact for the record?
Are you okay with contact with your brother?
Yes.
Okay. Are you afraid for your safety?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Next case is Lee's. All right. Good morning, sir. Can you tell me your full name and your date of birth?
Matthew Cody Lees, Lees, July 28th, 1984.
All right, and you got to keep your mask on, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, sir, I'm going to appoint the public defender to represent you this morning. Or do you want the public defender?
Please.
Okay, I'll appoint her. Sir, you were charged with battery. I reviewed the arrest affidavit. I find probable cause. He qualifies for pretrial release? Yes, okay. So what based on your lack of history, I'm gonna release you to pretrial release, okay? You cannot return to this location. Do you live there?
Yes, I do.
Okay, you can go back one time to get your belongings with law enforcement, but you cannot have any contact with the victim. No contact means no face-to-face contact or indirect contact, meaning through someone that knows you and her, or through social media, or no text messages.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Lloyd? Good morning, sir. Can you tell me your full name and your date of birth?
Anthony Lloyd, January 2nd, 1968.
Thank you. I'll appoint the public defender to represent you this morning. Sir, you were charged with battery. I reviewed the arrest affidavit. I find probable cause. I'm setting bond in the amount of $1,500. If you are to bond out, you cannot go back to this location. You cannot have any contact with the victim. No contact means no face-to-face contact, or indirect contact, meaning through someone that knows you and her, or through social media or text messages. No weapons or firearms. Thank you.
Can I say something, ma'am?
About the case or release?
Is it possible I can get on RR? I gotta go to work. I got a good job.
I know, sir, but you've been arrested and I set bond. You're gonna have to talk to your lawyer, I'm sorry. Okay, thank you, sir.
Been updated.
Leticia Ramirez? All right, good morning, ma'am. Can you tell me your full name and your date of birth?
It's Anna Leticia Ramirez, and my date of birth is February 16, 1992.
All right, Ms. Ramirez, I'm gonna appoint the public defender to represent you. Ma'am, you were arrested for for dating violence battery. I reviewed the arrest affidavit. I find probable cause. Based on your lack of record, though, you qualify for pretrial release, so I'm gonna release you through pretrial. If you bond out, you cannot return to the location except one time with law enforcement to get your stuff. You cannot have any contact. No contact is no face-to-face contact or indirect contact, no text message, no social media, also no weapons or firearms. Thank you. Next case, Monik Tarantino? All right. Good morning. Can you tell me your full name and your date of birth?
Monique Evelise Tarantino, September 3rd, 1984.
Okay. I'm going to appoint the public defender to represent you. That you were charged with battery. I reviewed the arrest affidavit. I find probable cause. Based on your lack of history, I'm going to release you to pretrial. You cannot have any contact with the victims in this case. No contact is no face-to-face contact or indirect contact. No text messages, no social media contact or anything. No weapons or firearms, and no return to the location. Unless you stay there and you can go back one time with law enforcement to get your stuff. Okay, thank you. Anderson Burnett?
Ma'am.
Good morning, sir. Can you tell me your full name and your date of birth?
Anderson Burnett,
Your birthday?
June 6/15, 1999.
Okay. Mr. Burnett, I'm going to appoint the public defender to represent you this morning. You were charged with domestic violence battery. Good morning, ma'am. Can you raise your right hand? You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Can you tell me your full name?
Alexandria Arocho.
How do you say your last name?
Arocho.
Okay. All right. And you are the victim in this case. All right. I've reviewed the arrest affidavit. I find probable cause. Ms. Arocho, what is it that you'd like to tell me in terms of contact?
I don't want to press charges at all.
Okay. Well, what about contact?
Oh, yeah, he could come home. That's my husband.
Okay. All right. Are you afraid for your safety?
No.
Do you understand that you can still call the police if things get heated or you're in fear?
It won't be.
Okay, but you understand that you can call the police if you want to? Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. So, Mr. Burnett, what I'm going to do is allow you to return to the home, but no hostile contact. Meaning, if it gets heated between you and her, it's your responsibility to walk away. You understand?
Yes, ma'am.
No weapons or firearms. All right, thank you. I'll release you to pretrial because you don't have a record. Okay?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
And how do I drop the charges?
You're gonna have to talk to the prosecutors.
Okay.
All right,
We'll be
thank
in
you.
touch. Thank you.
Williams? Good morning. Can you tell me your full name and your date of birth?
Avian Williams, 12/18/03.
Okay. Ms. Williams, I'm going to appoint the public defender to represent you. You were charged with domestic violence battery. I've reviewed the arrest affidavit. I find probable cause. Good morning, sir. Can you raise your right hand? Can you, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes,
All right. Can you tell me your full name?
Jordan Mays.
Mays, okay. And I think, Mr. Mays, you're the, you're the alleged victim. All right. So, Ms. Williams, I reviewed the arrest affidavit. I find probable cause, but based on your lack of priors, I'm going to release you to pretrial release, okay? What is it you want to tell me in terms of contact?
Oh, she's fine to come back and talk.
Okay, so you understand that if she comes back, you can still call the police if you fear for your safety or things get out of hand?
Yes.
Are you afraid for your safety?
No.
Okay. All right, Ms. Williams, I'm going to allow you to go back, but no hostile contact, meaning if it gets heated between you and him, it's your responsibility to turn around and walk away. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, no weapons or firearms. Thank you. Next case is Bridges. Okay. I'll appoint the public defender on this case. He was here on he's out on a warrant for a failure to appear with bond at 0. I'll keep it the same. Next one is Brown. Good morning, ma'am. Good morning. Good morning. Can you tell me your full name and your date of birth?
Lois Brown, 41162.
Okay. Ms. Brown, I'll appoint the public defender to represent you this morning. Ma'am, you're here because of a warrant on an ag assault case. So the previous judge set bond at 0, so I'm going to keep it the same. You are to have no contact with the victims. No, you have to maintain separate residences. You can't go back to the scene. No, you cannot possess alcohol or drugs or controlled substances without a valid prescription. No weapons or firearms. Yes, ma'am.
But it was my daughter.
Okay, so don't talk about the case.
Okay.
All right?
But my dad is all time. I just take care of my dad at all times. I have a job and I have 4 grandchildren, and I need a bond.
Ma'am, I know, but a previous judge has issued it to no bond. So I'm sorry, but I can't give you a bond this morning. All right. Thank you, ma'am. Next case, Bryant. Good morning, sir. Can you tell me your full name and your, okay. Good morning, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Can you tell me your full name and your date of birth, please?
One second, repeat.
Yeah. What's your full name and your date of birth?
Christopher Sylvester Bryant, June 22nd, 1977.
Do you want the public defender to represent you this morning?
Yes.
Okay.
Is it possible I could get sentenced or
What?
Is it possible that I could get sentenced or can we handle this right here? Because I don't have any money to bond out or R&R, which,
No. Because there's a victim and the state's got to talk to the victim and everything. All right, look, I reviewed the arrest affidavit. I find probable cause. I'll set bond in 500. You can't go back to that location and you can't have any contact with the victims in this case if you bond out. All right, sir, thank you.
thank you.
Next case. Sir. All right, Mr. Gracian? All right, can you tell me your full name and your date of birth?
Gratian Esdenfort, October 28th, 1992.
All right, sir. I'll appoint the public defender to represent you this morning. Sir, you were charged with fleeing and eluding. I reviewed the arrest affidavit. I find probable cause. I'll set bond in the amount of $1,000. Yeah. All right, thank you.
No, thank you.
Next case, Foster?
Bonded.
All right. Next case, Hart?
Bonded.
All right. James? Johnson?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Can you tell me your full name and your date of birth?
Donnie LaVon Johnson, 11168.
Okay. Mr. Johnson, so unfortunately, you don't qualify for the public defender's office, but you're here because you were arrested for aggravated battery with a deadly weapon. Also, you're out on bond on 2 cases, 2021 CF 15678 and 2021 CF 15717. I reviewed the aggravated battery charge. I reviewed it and I find probable cause. I'm gonna set bond on that case in the amount of $2,500. If you bond out, no weapons or firearms and no contact with the victim, and you cannot go back to this location.
Yes, ma'am.
Also, because you're out on bond, I'm revoking your release on both of those cases. All right, thank you. Next case, LeBron. Mr. LeBron? All right, can you tell me your full name and your date of birth?
8/15, Raphael LeBron, 8/15/67.
All right, and I'll appoint the public defender to represent you this morning. Sir, you've got 2 cases, 1 burglary of a dwelling, 2nd burglary to an unoccupied structure and grand theft. I reviewed both of the arrest affidavits. On the burglary of a dwelling, I find probable cause. I'm setting bond in the amount of $3,500. If you bond out, you cannot go back there and you cannot have any contact with the victims. On the 2nd case, I find PC on both counts. I'm setting bond on count 1, $3,500, count 2, $500. Same thing. You cannot go back and no contact with the victims in this case. All right, thank you, sir. Next case is Love. Mr. Lee?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, can you tell me your full name and your date of birth?
Loverot Bransky Antonio Lee Jr., 12/04/2002.
Okay. Mr. Lee, do you want a public defender to represent you this morning?
No, I have a lawyer.
Okay. Well, I don't see one here today, but you were arrested for fleeing and eluding. I reviewed the arrest affidavit. I find probable cause. I'm going to set bond in the amount of $1,500, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you, sir. Next case is Miller. Are you Mr. Miller?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell me your full name and date of birth?
Dalton Gregory Miller, May 1796.
Okay. Mr. Miller, you want to, I'm going to appoint the public defender to represent you.
Okay.
Sir, you're here because there was a warrant out for your arrest. The judge in that case set bond on the counts. So you were charged with dealing in stolen property trafficking, receiving money from pawnbroker via false verification, and petty theft. The judge set bond on count 1, $5,000, count 2, $1,000, count 3, $500, for a total of $6,500, and I'm going to keep it the same. All right, thank you, sir. Next case, Radikowski?
Yes, sir.
All right, sir, can you tell me your full name and your date of birth?
Dennis Patrick Radikowski, 6/13/74.
All right, Mr. Radikowski, I'm going to appoint the public defender to represent you. You were charged with petty theft with 2 or more convictions and possession of drug paraphernalia. I reviewed the arrest affidavit. I find probable cause. Count 1, I'm setting bond on $1,000. Count 2, $500. If you bond out, you cannot go back to that CVS, and you cannot have any contact with the victims in this case.
Yes, sir.
All right,
And
thank you.
I apologize, count 1 was 1,000?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Next case, Riley. All right, sir, can you tell me your full name and your date of birth?
Willie James Riley, 10/16/1983.
Okay. And Mr. Riley, I'm going to appoint the public defender to represent you. You are here because you've been charged with possession of MDMA and trespass after warning. I reviewed the arrest affidavits. I find probable cause. I'm setting bond, count 1, $1,000, count 2, $500. Also, you're out on bond, you're out on ROR on 22 CF 8010. I'm going to take no action on that. All right? Thank you.
What do you mean?
Meaning, you have a bond. Thank you. Next case, Sanders. Okay, can you tell me your full name and your date of birth, please?
My name is Teresa Sanders. I was born 11/17/2003.
Okay. Ms. Sanders, I'm going to appoint the public defender to represent you. You're here because you were charged with battery on a law enforcement officer. I reviewed the arrest affidavit. I do find probable cause. Because you don't have a record, you qualify for pretrial release, so I'm going to release you pretrial release, okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you.
So what does that mean?
So pretrial services will get in contact with you. You got to keep in touch with them, but you don't have to post a bond.
Okay.
Any conditions, Your Honor?
Oh, no hostile contact with law enforcement. That's it.
And public defender appointed?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next case, Taylor?
Bonded.
Okay. Walker?
Refuse.
All right, on Walker, I'll appoint the public defender. She filled out the form. She was charged with possession of a controlled substance. I reviewed the arrest affidavit. I find PC. I'll set bond at $2,500. I'll lower that. All right, Butler. Can you tell me your full name and your date of birth, please?
Robin Louisa Butler, February 10th, 1995.
All right, Ms. Butler, you're here because you failed to appear on a different case. The judge in that case set bond at $1,000. All right, I'm gonna keep it the same.
Your Honor, they also ordered plus PTR, but she doesn't qualify, so can you strike pretrial?
Yes, I'll drop pretrial.
I can.
Don't talk about the facts right now. You have bond of $1,000.
All right, thank you, Ms. Butler. You got bond at 1,000, okay?
Thank you.
Davis. Okay. Rowley. Okay. And then Alvarado? All right, I'll appoint the public defender. I reviewed the arrest affidavit on Alvarado. I'll set bond at 500. No return to the location, no contact with the victims. Andrews. Sure. Next one is Battle. Is that you, sir, Mr. Battle?
Are you Mr. Battle?
All right, can you tell me your full name and your date of birth, please?
Nathaniel Battles, 92078.
All right, Mr. Battle, I'm gonna appoint the public defender to represent you this morning. Sir, you were charged with trespass after warning and larceny. I reviewed the arrest affidavit. I find PC. Count one, I'm setting bond at 500. Count two, 100. If you bond out, you cannot go back to this location, okay? Thank you, sir. Davis. Trisha, Dave. Good morning. Can you tell me your full name and date of birth?
Ricaria Andrews.
I'm sorry?
Ricaria Andrews, 06/18/1999.
Okay. All right, recalling Ricaria Andrews. And when's your birthday?
06/18/1999.
Okay. Ms. Andrews, I'm going to appoint the public defender to represent you. It looks like you were arrested for resisting and fraudulent impersonation. Also, you're on, this is a violation of probation. Okay. I reviewed the arrest affidavit on the resisting and fraudulent impersonation. I'm gonna set bond on count one, 500, count two, 100. No contact with the co-defendants. And also, because you're on probation, I'm gonna revoke your release and set bond at 0 so you can go before the judge on that. All right, thank you, ma'am.
Your Honor, may I
Yes.
have a case number for that?
For the
For Andrews?
22 294.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and this is
That's Mr. John Worth. Do you have Davis? I gave you
Trisha Davis? No.
behavior.
Behavior, okay. On Trisha Davis, I'll appoint the PD. I review the arrest affidavit. I'll set bond at 500. No return and no contact with the victim. All right, Joyner? Jakari? Okay, I'll pass. Chad David Jungworth? Is that you, sir?
Yeah.
All right, can you tell me your full name and your date of birth?
Chad David Jungworth, 62972.
All right, Mr. Jungworth, I'm going to appoint the public defender to represent you. Sir, you were charged with larceny and possession of drug paraphernalia. I reviewed the arrest affidavit. I find PC. Count one, I'll set bond at 250. Count two, 100. Don't go back to that target
Okay.
if you bond out. Thank you, sir.
Thank
Stallion? Is that you, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, can you tell me your full name and your date of birth?
Wayne Italian Stallion Jr., January 29th, 90.
All right, Mr. Stallion, do you want the public defender to represent you this morning?
Yes.
Okay, I'll appoint her to represent you. Sir, you have, I think you have 2 warrants out for you.
One.
Was it the same? Okay. So there's a warrant out for your arrest. Bond was set at 2,000, so I'm gonna keep it the same, okay? All right, thank you, sir. I've got Jane Doe.
Mental health.
Okay, I'll appoint the PD on this one. I reviewed the arrest affidavit. I'll set bond at 500, no return. Jivan Kandaya? Okay, sir, can you tell me your full name and your date of birth?
Javon Jason Kandaya, 14 September 1989.
Okay, sir, do you want the public defender to represent you this morning?
I do.
Okay, I'll appoint her. I reviewed the arrest affidavit. I do find probable cause for the domestic violence. I'm setting bond at 1,000. If you bond out, you are not to return to the location. No contact with the victim. No contact means no face-to-face contact or indirect contact, meaning through someone that knows you and her. Also, no alcohol. No weapons or firearms. Thank you.
I understand. Thank you.
Taylor?
Medical.
All right, I'll appoint the PD on this case. I find PC on all counts. Bond, we'll do 500, 500, 500. So I'll lower count 1, count 2, and then 3 is the same. Kastner? All right. Tell me your full name and your date of birth, please.
My name is John Robert Kastner, the 3rd, January 21st, 1987.
All right, Mr. Kastner, you're here because there's a warrant out for your violation of probation. A judge looked at it and set bond at 0, so I'm going to keep it the same. Thank you, Mr. Kastner. Ramos Rodriguez?
Your Honor, Mr. Kastner would respectfully request the court if the court would consider imposing a bond due to the physical health of his mother.
That's denied. You can go before the court. You're on probation, sir. All right, thank you. Mr. Ramos? All right, good morning, sir. Tell me your full name and your date of birth.
Jose Roberto Ramos Rodriguez, November 2nd, 1984.
Okay, sir, I'm going to appoint the public defender to represent you. You are here because of a violation of probation. So the judge looked at it and set 0 bond, okay? So you're going to have to go before her in order to get a bond. Thank you, sir. John Doe?
Mental health.
Okay, I'll appoint the PD. Bond $250, no alcohol. Santos?
No Santos.
Okay. And Seeley?
Your Honor, I have an executed plea form for Mr. Seeley.
Okay. Sir, can you tell me your full name and your date of birth, please?
Todd Vincent Seeley.
All right, Mr. Seeley.
1187.
All right. Do you want the public defender to represent you? Mr. Seeley, you are charged with soliciting without a permit. That is a Sydney ordinance. Maximum punishment, I think, is 60 days in jail. Do you understand the charge and the maximum penalty?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, sir. You have filled out a plea form. The plea form lists out all of the rights that you have, your constitutional rights. That includes also to have a right to a trial, to have your attorney look at the case and defend you, and your right to remain silent. You understand you're giving up all those rights by entering this plea today? And is that what you want to do?
Yes.
Okay, what's the offer?
It should be an adjudication of guilt, court costs, credit time served, and stay on the street.
Okay, how many days credit?
2 days.
2? Okay. All right, sir, I will adjudicate you guilty on the soliciting without a permit, impose court costs, give you credit for 2 days' time served. You have a year to get with the clerk's office to pay off the court costs. Otherwise, they could suspend your license and other matters. You have 30 days to appeal. Thank you, sir. Yes. All right. Okay, so I've got 2 cases. Can I give you booking numbers? So on Joyner, it is 22027134.
He bonded.
Okay. And then on Santos, the inmate number is 22027145.
He bonded.
Okay. All right, that completes this morning. We're off the record.